With the looming launch of Grand Theft Auto 6, the entire gaming industry is sort of at the mercy of Rockstar Games. This has resulted in studios going into two camps. You're either waiting until after the launch of GTA 6 to launch your game and hoping you don't somehow end up in the second blast zone that is GTA 6 Online. This is the camp that games like Fable and Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis find themselves in. Games that intended to release this year, but whether they say it or not, have moved at least in part due to their game likely not being ready for release until close to GTA 6. And then there's the other camp that will be the topic of this video. The camp that has decided to turn the month of September into one of the most fascinating phenomena in the history of gaming, and I do not say that lightly. We have seen loaded months in the past with 2 to 3 big games. May of this year we saw Forza Horizon 6, Lego Batman, and 007 First Light all released within weeks of each other. Something like that pales in comparison to what September has become, and by extension October as well. It's become so crazy that I started to truly wonder what the adverse effects of something like this could be. So let's break down how insane this release schedule actually is in detail and talk about where this could lead. Starting off hot on September 3rd, we have The Blood of Dawnwalker. This is a brand new game from the director of The Witcher 3, Konrad Tomaskovitz, and his new studio, Rebel Wolves, that consists of other former CDPR devs. For those uninitiated, The Blood of Dawnwalker is an open-world RPG in the same vein as The Witcher 3, set in 14th century Europe. The added aspect of this game, though, is that there are vampires and they're a threat to everyday life, and obviously you do eventually become one of those vampires, but not just a vampire, a Dawnwalker, a half-human, half-vampire hybrid that can use vampiric powers and walk amongst humans in the daytime. Off the bat, you can hear some Witcher influence in the fact that it's an open-world RPG set in old-age Europe, but looking at this gameplay, you start to really see that influence as well. Whether that's the dialogue and the dialogue options given, or this combat with a third-person over-the-shoulder sword fighting, but you can see how he throws this powder that allows him to use an active ability that boils his enemy's blood. There is a ton of Witcher 3 influence in that sequence alone. For me, I'm someone that has kind of struggled to get into CDPR games, mainly talking about The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, so when I look at this, I do feel slightly skeptical, but I am also hopeful that outside of that CDPR environment, maybe something that's a little bit for me can be made. Also on September 3rd, we have the highly anticipated Haze-like game, Orbitals, developed by Shape Farm. I realize Haze-like is a newer term, so to explain, Orbitals takes influence from games like It Takes Two and Split Fiction, two co-op puzzle games created by Haze-like Studios, hence the name Haze-like. Orbitals has been on my radar for a bit now, and I'm not even someone that has a ton of interest in it, but like a lot of people, the 90s anime art style that they're using for this game is so unique to gaming and eye-catching that it immediately piqued my interest. I will admit, the gameplay doesn't inspire me all that much. It looks fine, but nothing truly amazing. It's garnered a lot of hype though, so we'll see come September 3rd if it's just an instance of style over substance. On September 4th, we have the return of Capcom's Onimusha, this being the first new game in this series since 2012. I love the old school Onimusha PS2 games. Those are games I got to way too late, only a few years ago, but they resonated with me. So my hype for this game when it was revealed was pretty high, especially as Capcom is on a crazy run right now. A few months ago, they released a demo for it, and while I won't sit here and act like it's the best thing I've ever played, it was a lot of fun. The fact that they're leaning more into the action and not making another Souls-like game makes me really happy. My one thing I hope for is the combat to really expand as the game goes on. If the combat and mechanics stay the way they are at the end of the demo, it'll result in a pretty lackluster experience, but for a demo, it's quite good. I've heard a lot of people saying similar things, but it's Capcom after all. I'd be dumb to not have faith in them. Unfortunately for them though, a game that is just a bit too similar to Onimusha comes out in October, which I'll talk about later, so this one is in the wait for a sale category for me. On September 8th, we have IllFonic's next go-around with another iconic horror franchise. This time it's Halloween, and as I've said a few times on this channel, I am all in on this game. This is the first game I'm considering a personal must-play. In 2018, IllFonic created Friday the 13th, one of my absolute favorite games of all time, and just based on the previews we've seen, they seem to be nailing what made that game so fun. In this game, you play as either a survivor or Michael Myers himself in a 1v4 race against time. As a survivor, you'll try not to only save yourself and the other players, but your neighbors in Haddonfield as well. Michael has abilities like Shape Jump, that serve as faster mobility options, but it's only something that can be activated and deactivated in the darkness or outside of a player's line of sight, while the survivors have weapons and the police to aid them as the game goes on. There was a fantastic gameplay deep dive earlier this summer that I highly suggest watching. While I am still skeptical as these games never seem to last long, in the short term, I'm about as excited as I can possibly be. On September 15th, we have one of 2026's biggest games, Marvel's Wolverine, of course developed by Insomniac Games. I've talked ad nauseum about this game on this channel, so to make this very quick, I'm interested in this game, not so much excited. I think the gameplay looks cool, but nothing that truly blows me away, and I think the lore we've been given about this version of Logan and the world this game is set in leaves a lot to be desired. I think come September 15th, I will be playing this, but I can easily see a world where I decide to save a bit of money if the reviews aren't up to snuff. On to September 17th, we have Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Listen, I don't have a Switch 2, so this is something I will also make pretty quick. JRPG fans are excited as hell for anything and everything Fire Emblem, and these games always review extremely well. So to throw something as large as this from the Nintendo catalog is ridiculous, but it's Nintendo, so they can kinda do whatever they want. On September 24th, we have the follow-up to 2019's Control, that of course being Control Resonant from Remedy Entertainment. I was never able to get into Control, but I think the highest praise I can give to Resonant is the fact that I really fucking wish I was more into it so that I could play this game and actually know the story. The first Control game is a linear, third-person shooter type of game, but Resonant is ditching that for a more open, shape-shifting world and some incredible-looking melee combat. The art style, the enemy design, the movement, everything here is so unique and interests me so much. It's not often that I truly consider just watching a story synopsis of the first game in a series so I can play its follow-up, but what Remedy have shown from Control Resonant and what I have heard from people I tend to agree with, this may be a game I do that for. Also on September 24th, Silent Hill continues its comeback with yet another installment, this time in Silent Hill Townfall. Townfall marks the second new environment for Silent Hill in a row. Last year, Silent Hill F went to Japan, and now Silent Hill Townfall takes us and main character Simon Ordell to St. Amelia, a port town in Scotland. The environments shown in trailers are so unique to Silent Hill, even with the signature fog hovering over the town. Also unique to this installment is the fact that for the first time ever in a mainline Silent Hill game, it is 100% first person. The first-person combat looks incredible and truly terrifying. Simon swaps between melee and guns throughout the trailers. He's running and stealthing his way past horrifying creatures. It's exactly what we've all come to expect from Silent Hill, with a unique environment and a new perspective. Every game I have listed so far are the games with the most hype during the month of September. This list has totally excluded games like Screenbound, a game that is sure to garner praise from the indie gaming community. Valheim is entering 1.0 after years of hype. Minecraft Dungeons 2 releases on the 29th, and this isn't even considering October. On October 2nd, we have the 8th installment in Project Ace's flight simulation series, Ace Combat 8. On October 6th, we have Gears of War E-Day, the 6th installment in the Gears franchise that harkens back to the infamous E-Day and serves as a prequel to the start of the iconic story of Marcus and Dom. Also on October 6th, we have Star Wars Galactic Racer, the triumphant return of Star Wars pod racing games that even I am hyped for as someone that's never even seen a single Star Wars movie. October 13th, Valor Mortis, a first-person Souls-like set in the Napoleonic era from One More Level, the studio behind Ghost Runner. I played the demo for this game a few months ago and I absolutely fell in love with it. This has become an instant must-play for me. October 15th, the first new installment in the Castlevania franchise in 12 years, Castlevania Belmont's Curse comes out. This is a game I will certainly have my eyes on because the combat looks very, very similar to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which I absolutely adored. Moving on to the 22nd, Final Fantasy returns to 2D for the first time in at least a decade with Final Fantasy Resonance, something I don't really care about, but it's Final Fantasy, so of course it's worth mentioning. And finally, closing out the month on the 23rd, we have the new installment of Call of Duty, but more interesting for me is on the 29th, we finally have Phantom Blade Zero, a game that I've had my eyes on for years now, and is single-handedly the reason I will not be buying Onimusha. When I said that this is one of the most fascinating phenomena in the history of gaming, I wasn't kidding. And if you think that it's just a lot of games all at once and nothing more, then you're not looking at it correctly. It is a foregone conclusion that there are games in this window, games I didn't even name, that will release, not sell the amount they need to be considered a success, and it will result in job losses and at worst, studio closures. Take a game like Halloween for example, a game that I truly believe will have a core audience, but with games like Wolverine and Silent Hill releasing so close to it, games that capture such a wide net of people, there was a world where that game gets off to a rocky launch and simply doesn't recover. Don't get me wrong, as consumers, we're going to get a lot of great games, and that is absolutely something to be excited about. But not all of us are rich, and the amount of people that are both capable of affording multiple games a month and big enough fans of gaming to even want to do that is very small. As consumers, we are forced into a situation where we have to pick and choose the one, maybe two games we plan to buy during this absolute onslaught, and it's going to put a lot of studios in a hard spot. Publishers like to act like their games aren't competing against other games, and in some instances that may be true, but that is not the case here. And I don't want for this to come off as some contrarian GTA 6 isn't worth all of this kind of take, but something like this should never happen again. But the unfortunate reality is that it's happening in September and October, and it's going to happen again to start 2027. GTA 6 is an absolute juggernaut, and the ironic thing is that by simply existing, it's going to kill other games.